When the front desk clerk at the Pine Shadow Motel picked up the phone that night, no one spoke. There was only breathing soft, unsteady, female. Then a whisper, "Don't sleep yet." He froze. The call was coming from room 217, the same room that hadn't been rented in 6 months. 3 days earlier, Clara Jenkins, a 34-year-old nurse from Denver, was driving home after a double shift. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, gray under the pale Colorado moon. Her eyelids were heavy. She had been awake for nearly 20 hours, and even coffee had stopped helping when the glowing sign appeared Pine Shadow Motel. Vacancy, she almost cried with relief. The lot was empty except for 2 cars and a flickering vending machine light. Inside, a middle-aged clerk looked up from behind the counter. His name tag said Earl. "Long drive?" he asked. "Denver to Ridgefield," she said, rubbing her eyes. "Didn't plan to stop, but I can't keep them open." He nodded slowly. "Only got a couple of rooms open. 217's clean. Haven't had guests there in a while." She smiled weakly. "As long as there's a bed." Earl hesitated for half a second, then slid the key across the counter. "It's quiet there." "Maybe too quiet," he muttered, then forced a smile. Room 217 was at the far end of the hallway. The carpet smelled faintly of bleach and old cigarettes. The air felt colder there, though the heater hummed softly. Inside, it was a typical roadside room. 2 lamps, 1 bed, a small TV, and a mirror that covered most of the wall opposite the window. She tossed her bag on the chair, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. The hum of the highway outside faded into a low lullaby. She showered, changed into her nightshirt, and pulled the thin motel blanket up to her chin. The clock read 2:54 a.m. The light beside her flickered once. Then again. She sighed, too tired to care, and turned over. Just as she began to drift off, the telephone rang. A harsh, shrill sound in the stillness. Clara jumped. She fumbled for the receiver. "Hello?" Silence. "Front desk?" She tried again. Nothing. Then, faintly so faintly she wasn't sure it was real, she heard breathing. A woman's breathing. "Hello?" she whispered. Click. The line went dead. Clara's pulse raced. She told herself it was a wrong number, maybe someone dialing the wrong room. She hung up, rolled over, and closed her eyes again. But the sound came back, not the phone this time. The TV. It had turned itself on. Static hissed across the screen, white noise filling the room. She stared at it from the bed, heart pounding. Slowly, she reached for the remote on the nightstand and clicked it off. The noise stopped, replaced by the dull hum of the heater. She let out a shaky laugh. "Great. Faulty wiring," she murmured. "Welcome to Pine Shadow." She turned on her side, eyes drifting toward the mirror opposite the bed. In the dim lamplight, her reflection seemed wrong. The shadows were deeper there, her face slightly delayed in movement as though the reflection was watching her more than mimicking her. "Get some sleep?" she muttered, pulling the blanket over her head. She dreamed of water. She was standing in ankle-deep water, in a room that looked exactly like her motel room, but everything was submerged. The mirror rippled. The phone floated. And from beneath the water came a voice whispering, "Don't sleep yet." She woke up gasping. The room was quiet again. The clock read 3:17 a.m. Her hair was damp with sweat. She reached for the light, switch then froze. The bathroom door was open. She was sure she had closed it before bed. Inside, she could hear a faint dripping. Slowly, she climbed out of bed. The carpet was cold under her feet. Each step toward the bathroom felt heavier than the last. "Hello," she said softly. No answer. She reached the doorway and flicked the light on. The shower was running. Steam filled the small space, curling toward the ceiling. The curtain was closed. "Earl?" she said nervously, trying to laugh. "Did someone come in here?" She reached for the curtain. The water stopped. A single drop hit the floor. Heart pounding, she pulled the curtain back and screamed. There was a woman standing in the shower, soaked, pale, her eyes wide open, unblinking, and she looked exactly like Clara. By the time Earl heard the noise from the office, room 217 was silent again. He walked down the hallway. key in hand, muttering. Guess had complained about the pipes before, about the flickering lights, but never screaming. He unlocked the door. The bed was empty. The floor was wet. The phone was off the hook. He looked toward the bathroom. The mirror above the sink was fogged, though the air was cold. He wiped it with a towel. Words were written across the glass in streaked condensation. Stay awake. Earl stumbled back. What the... The phone rang. He turned slowly toward it. It sat on the nightstand, receiver vibrating against the wood. He picked it up, breathing. Then a whisper. Don't sleep yet. Chapter 2. After that night, room 217 was sealed for cleaning. The motel owner ordered Earl not to talk to anyone about it. Some prank, she said. Someone broke in. Forget it. But Earl couldn't forget, because 3 days later, the sheriff found Clara's car still parked behind the motel. Her bag, her purse, her ID, everything inside, but no sign of her. She was declared missing. The investigation went nowhere. No footprints, no struggle, no trace. The security cameras behind the front desk had stopped recording between 2:30 and 4 a.m. that night, and the room stayed locked. For months, staff avoided it. Maids refused to enter. Guests whispered about the nurse who vanished. Earl was the only one who occasionally stood outside the door, key in hand, wondering if she'd somehow walk out again. One winter evening, snow fell thick across the parking lot. The motel was empty except for a trucker asleep in room 103. Earl was at the counter reading the newspaper when the phone rang. He sighed, expecting it to be a wrong number. Pine Shadow Motel front desk. Static, then a woman's voice. Room 217. He frowned. Ma'am, that room isn't available. The voice whispered again, Don't sleep yet. He hung up so fast he nearly knocked the phone over. The clock read 3:17 a.m. He unplugged the line, but the phone rang again. He stared at it, heart racing. The cord dangled loose, disconnected, yet the ringing continued. When he finally picked it up, the voice on the other end was crying softly. Help me, Earl whispered. Clara? Click. Silence. The next morning, he opened the door to room 217 for the first time since that night. The air was freezing cold. The mirror over the bed was cracked down the center, and written in the dust on the nightstand was a single word. Awake. Word spread. Within a year, the Pine Shadow Motel had its reputation. Travelers passing through Ridgefield avoided it. The few who stayed claimed to hear a woman's voice whisper through the vents, always around 3 a.m. One woman swore she saw a figure in the mirror brushing her hair even though she was sitting on the bed. Another said she woke up drenched in cold water. The owner finally closed room 217 permanently. The door was bolted, the key thrown away. But that didn't stop the calls. Every few months, the front desk phone would ring around 3:17 a.m. The caller ID would flash, room 217. When answered, the same whisper, Don't sleep yet. 10 years later, the motel was sold to new owners. The building had been repainted, the carpets replaced. The old stories faded into rumor, until one night, a young couple checked in after a snowstorm. The new clerk, unaware of the legend, gave them the last available key, room 217. The couple laughed about the spooky vibes and unpacked their bags. At 3 a.m., the woman woke up to the sound of the shower running. She turned to wake her boyfriend. He wasn't beside her. Mark, she called. No answer. She got up and went to the bathroom. The floor was wet. Steam rolled under the door. Mark, what are you doing? She pulled the curtain back. The shower was empty. The mirror fogged. She leaned closer. The steam cleared just enough to reveal 2 words written on the glass. Stay awake. The phone rang. She turned toward it, heart hammering. The clock read 3:17 a.m. She picked up. Static. Then, faintly, a woman's whisper. Don't sleep yet. The Pine Shadow Motel was shut down permanently in 2004 after a series of unexplained fires and electrical failures. The building still stands on Highway 17, its paint peeling, its windows boarded. Locals say no one dares to stay the night there anymore. Truckers pass it without slowing down. But sometimes, late at night, drivers report seeing a faint light in one of the windows, a woman's silhouette standing still in front of the mirror. And if you listen carefully, above the hum of your engine, you might hear a distant phone ringing and a soft voice whispering through the static. Don't sleep yet.